Some houses are born wrong. Not from shoddy construction or bad foundations, though the house at the end of Larkwood Lane had those too, but from something deeper. A kind of hunger in the bones of the place. The kind that settles into the walls, the floorboards, the very air, until the house isn't just a structure anymore. Until it's something alive. Ellis Carter noticed it on a Tuesday. He'd walked past the house every day for 7 years on his way home from the hardware store. In all that time, the door had never once been open. The paint, once white, had long since peeled away in grayish strips. The porch sagged like a broken spine. The windows were cataracts of dust and cobwebs. But today the door stood ajar. Just a sliver. Just enough to show a slice of darkness inside. Ellis stopped. The street was empty. No kids playing, no cars passing. Just the sigh of wind through dead leaves. He should have kept walking. He did not. The porch groaned under his weight. Up close, the door frame was warped, the wood swollen from decades of rain. The gap between door and jamb was no wider than 2 fingers. Beyond it, blackness, and the smell. Lavender. Not the faint, dried-out scent of old potpourri. This was thick, cloying. Like someone had just crushed a handful of fresh blossoms in their palm. Ellis pushed the door. It swung open without a sound. The hallway stretched into shadow. Wallpaper hung in strips, revealing patches of mold-speckled plaster. The floorboards were scarred with deep gouges, not from furniture being moved, but from something being dragged. And there, in the center of the hallway, lay a single sheet of paper. Ellis picked it up. The paper was crisp, unnaturally white against the grime of the house. The words were written in careful, looping script. "You weren't supposed to see this." A chill prickled the back of his neck. The ink was fresh, still slightly damp. From upstairs, a creak. Not the settling of an old house. This was deliberate. The sound of weight shifting on a floorboard. Ellis looked up. The staircase was swallowed by shadows. But for a single heart-stopping moment he thought he saw movement. Something pale, fluttering at the top of the stairs. Like the hem of a dress. Then nothing. The lavender smell grew stronger. Ellis took a step forward. And the door slammed shut behind him. When he finally stumbled back outside, gasping like a drowning man, the sun had set. 3 hours had passed. 3 hours he couldn't remember. And in his pocket the note was gone. The library archives smelled of mildew and yellowed paper. Ellis sat at a microfiche machine, scrolling through decades-old newspapers. The librarian, an old woman with cloudy eyes and knotted fingers, had been reluctant to help at first. But something in Ellis's face must have convinced her. "October 1982, she murmured, pulling a brittle newspaper from a drawer. The Voss disappearance. The headline was brief. Family of 4 vanishes without a trace. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. Just an empty house with a dinner table set for 4, the food still warm." Ellis studied the accompanying photo. The Voss family stood on their porch, frozen in time. Richard Voss, his mechanic's hands rough and grease-stained even in the picture. Margaret, her floral dress too thin for the autumn chill. Their daughters, Emily, 12, hugging a library book to her chest. Lily, 8, clutching a squirming terrier named Biscuit. And behind them, barely visible through the open door, a shadow in the hallway. Too tall to be any of them. "They found the dog's collar," the librarian whispered. "Up in the attic. Still warm, like the animal had just slipped out of it." Ellis's hands shook as he turned the page. Another article, this one from 1954. A traveling salesman named Harold Kemp had stayed at the house for 1 night. Vanished by morning. His suitcase was still packed. His shaving kit lay open on the bathroom sink, razor resting in a bowl of water gone cold. And before that, in 1921, a pair of sisters. Ellis stopped. The photograph showed the sisters standing in front of the house. Their faces were blurred as if they'd moved during the exposure. But the house behind them was crystal clear. And in the upstairs window, a face, watching. The lock gave way with a splintering crack. Ellis stepped inside, his flashlight cutting a shaky beam through the darkness. The air was thicker here, heavier. It clung to his skin like oil. The basement door stood slightly ajar. A cold draft seeped through the gap, carrying a smell that made Ellis's stomach clench, wet earth and something sweetly rotten. The stairs groaned under his weight. The walls were covered in markings. Not graffiti. Just names. Hundreds of them. Scratched into the wood. Carved into the stone. Written in what looked like charcoal or maybe. Ellis rubbed his thumb over one. The mark smeared red. At the bottom of the stairs the flashlight flickered. The basement was empty except for one thing, a single teacup sitting in the center of the floor. Porcelain. Delicate. The kind of thing Margaret Voss might have owned. Ellis reached for it, and the flashlight died. In the darkness, something inhaled. A wet, rattling sound like lungs full of mud. Then a whisper so close it brushed his ear. "Ellis." He ran. They found Ellis's truck parked at the end of Larkwood Lane 3 days later. The keys were still in the ignition. The engine was warm. On the passenger seat lay a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was Ellis's, but jagged, frantic, like the words had been scratched out in a hurry. "I understand now. The house doesn't take people. It gives them back." Changed. And underneath, a single word, Emily. The realtor couldn't remember listing the house. But the paperwork was in order. The price was right. And the young couple who moved in last week seemed so happy. Especially their daughter. The one who's always humming an old jazz tune under her breath. The one who looks just like Emily Voss's school photo. The one who keeps asking if they can fix the basement. Some houses are born wrong. And some are made that way. A month after Ellis Carter disappeared, the police closed the case. No body. No leads. Just an old truck gathering dust at the end of Larkwood Lane, its seat still faintly smelling of lavender. But in the top drawer of Ellis's bedside table, beneath a stack of unpaid bills and a half-empty bottle of aspirin, they found an envelope. Yellowed. Sealed with wax the color of dried blood. Inside, a single page, covered in handwriting that wasn't Ellis's. The ink was faded in places as if the words had been written decades ago. Or perhaps not yet. It described. "You think this is where the story ends? It isn't. Houses like this don't have endings. Only pauses. The Voss family learned that. Elias Larkwood before them. And you will too someday. Because the house isn't done with you yet. Even now as you read this, it's growing. New walls. New doors. New rooms with old voices inside. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now, you'll hear a familiar sound. A creak on the stairs. A whisper in the dark. A note left where none should be. And you'll know. It's your turn to come home." The police filed it as evidence. The next morning, the envelope was gone. And if you walk past the house at the end of Larkwood Lane tonight, you might see it, just for a second, in the upstairs window. A flicker of movement. A face pressed against the glass. And in its hand, a crisp white sheet of paper, waiting for the right reader.